Well, it's Wednesday again, and happy Wednesday to everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time of day you're catching us from. And we're here on Let's Get Real with my co host here, Nicole Harvick. And welcome, Nicole. Thank you for joining today.
Hello, hello. How are you? All good here. Always excited to have Wednesday roll around, especially midweek. Everyone, gets kind of, oh gosh, we got through Monday, Tuesday, but now we have to get through Thursday and Friday. So hopefully this makes life a little easier for people that can pop in and learn a little something from you, I, and our guests.
So just remember, everybody, we're here to shed a little sunshine on your life, maybe give you a little bit of that aha moment, a little bit of guidance between us and our guest. But we're here to educate you and be here of service. And part of it all is knowing that what none of us know it all, and sometimes we feel scared or we think twice about reaching out and asking questions and that. And you know what? It's the person who asks the question is the person that moves forward in life. And that's what you have to remember, that it's never wrong to ask, and it's always wrong to sit back and wonder, should I be asking? So, the more power to you to be thinking and asking and doing whatever you can to move forward. And that's what we're actually here for. So also don't forget to, like us and love us a little bit. We need, we're women, we need a little bit of loving too. And don't forget to subscribe, so hit that key as well. And I won't hold off any longer because we have a great show for you today. And we have a man who is just spectacular. So he is everything that I love in a man. He's strong, he's smart, and yet he has a lot. So he's able as a man to listen and to react with his emotions as well. And that's really important, that we don't shut ourselves down, right, Nicole?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's even more important now that we're bringing men into this fold, because for so long, men have been told or felt like they've had to suppress their emotions. And we haven't really gotten to know men sometimes on a very close level, because they're a little bit standoffish, a little bit afraid to maybe tell people what they're thinking or to speak from their heart. So I think it's perfect to start here with Geoff, have him on, and let's hear his side of the story.
Absolutely. So I'm not going to even give you too much of his story because he's going to give us all. But he is a man. His name is Geoff Tyson. And yeah, I know you're all thinking just like the chicken. I'm sure he's heard this only a million times. But his whole idea in life is helping people get back up when they're knocked down, no matter how many times it takes to step up into the greatness. And so I am going to bring up the great Geoffrey Tyson. Woohoo!
Hey, Glenda and Nicole.
Hey.
How are you ladies?
Wonderful now that you're on stage.
Yes.
Great.
Thanks for joining us.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, for some reason I can't hear you. I don't know why. I could hear you up until I came on stage.
Can you hear me?
Now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No. Wow. Well, we got you're unmuted. Okay. We have a problem then. Austin, we have a problem.
Okay. Glenda, can you hear me?
Let's see.
The only thing that I can suggest to you, and I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that this is happening, but the only thing I can suggest to you is to pop out. I'm going to go out and then come in.
You can hear me okay, right?
Yeah.
Glenda? Perfect. Okay.
And we're going to kick him out. They're removed from the studio. No, we're just going to kick the guest out and we're going to bring him back. He couldn't hear me, so I just had to take matters into my own hands, as I shall always do. And we kick him out and we'll let him come back in. So,
well, I'll tell you, this has been a week of all kinds of interesting things with my electronics, from my phone to my computer. I spent all day yesterday. I had to, with my Zoom, I literally had to take it off, reinstall it, had to do things with Spotify. So, maybe there's just something out there in the ethers that isn't working quite right this week.
Hold on, I have to. Yeah, he's on his way back. Yeah, well, things happen as the way they happen, and that's just part of life. And here's the thing. So if you're watching and you're going, well, it's nothing happened. Things happen for reasons. And stop sitting back and ever thinking to yourself, whoops, I'm falling out of shape here. This thinking to yourself that, you know what, instead of thinking in the negative way, think to yourself, okay, well, what can I do to change this? Or how can I look at it? What is the positive way of it? So it's just a matter of life hits us at times, but it's not that it's hitting us down. Is sometimes we have to do things through another side. We got to try another avenue. So many times when I've gone through things in my life, whether it's through businesses or relationships or something, sometimes you have to think really outside the box. So that's part of what what it's all about, is think outside the box when something happens to you. And, like I always say, do a sidestep, so bring yourself a sidestep in, and it's amazing which ways this will go. So besides that, Nicole, how has your week have been? We should tell everybody about what happened with our about what happened with our meditation the other night.
Yeah, and everything has been very, very good, very busy. Glenda and I had held a meditation on Monday night. It was the spring equinox, and that's a very powerful time of year because that's truly the new year. And what we did is, not only did we want to welcome it in, we wanted to go inside ourselves and start planning things for the new year. So we had a meditation with, I'm going to say, probably 10, 12 people. And just like today, we had some glitches with sound. So we just went ahead and did what we could. We went through the meditation. I have been leading meditation for several years, and I had written one expressly for spring, and we got through it, and we had some great feedback. So we were very happy about that. And also the fact that we got some people diving into themselves, learning who they are, what they'd like, and just learning that every answer is inside of you, and what you want to blossom coming up in the next couple months can be planted, inserted, or put into your subconscious, and then we can get to work on that and have everything come to fruition.
And it's so important when we learn that we have to step back sometimes. I was talking to somebody this morning, and, they said something that it's so important that people don't realize that when things are going on in your life, sometimes you just have to step back to see really what is going on in front of you. Because when we keep going, we don't always absorb what's really happening in our lives or around our lives. So sometimes, because everything is moving so fast these days. Haven't you found that as well?
And it truly is. I mean, time is going faster. Time has sped up. It's just a rush to get here and there. But physically, time really is speeding up. So one of the things I always tell everybody is not just to take a step back, but literally just surrender. Surrender to a higher source or power. And when you do that, you have to understand that you've just turned over control to something far more powerful than you. We try to micromanage every single minute of our lives, every single second, and it's just not possible. And why do you want to do that? Why are you putting that burden on yourself when you can practice surrender? And I've been practicing this for many, many years. And, I was telling Glenda the other night, it's just that it's amazing just how my appointments work out. Everything lines up perfectly. Everything that I need to do that day is given to me. And it's not always, there's always a glitch somewhere, and that's okay, because all you have to do is reframe that into a positivity. So my suggestion is just sit back, surrender, and let life happen for you, not to you.
Well, absolutely. And, when you said that, first of all, just so anybody is aware, I know a lot of people were trying to come to that meditation, and we will be doing more meditations. Everybody who did attend, and we had a great turnout anyways, but everybody had nothing but incredible, wonderful things to say about it, because Nicole is an incredible leader, especially with when it comes to her quantum healing, and but especially as a meditator. So it's something that's really worth you coming, and we will be doing it, and we'll be announcing more of them, because more treats as we start to build the recognize, reinvent, and rise, which we're all going to look to do. Because, okay, so here's the other thing. When we talk about reinventing isn't just your business. Years ago, when I've had to reinvent myself many times in my life, and it's been my business where I had to reinvent, or actually me. It was going through a relationship that doesn't work, and then when you come out and you have to get out of that, you've got all these things that are hanging in you, all these feelings, and that part of reinvention is being able, just like you said, Nicole, to surrender. And when you said that the other night, when you said that word, there was something about the way you said it, or just I was just really tuned into you, that my whole body went, yeah. And I just went, oh. And the focus and the whole event changed from that moment on. So being able to surrender and letting life just be what it has to be. If we stopped worrying so much, you'll see how much different your life will be. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And Glenda, when you talked about not just reinventing your job, when you reinvent yourself, and you have to go inside of yourself to do it, you have to really work with your soul. You're not just working with your body, you're working with a far greater entity than you are. And when you reinvent your soul and your desires and what you want, and you incorporate love into it, and you incorporate self-love into it, acceptance and forgiveness, then that extends to your outside world. So that's where the differences come in. When you are good within yourself, your world can be nothing but good, because you're bringing in who you are and what you're putting out there into the universe. So my advice to anyone, you start with you. You are the creator. You are the one that is going to create change by changing yourself.
And it's so true, because so many things in our life, I hear this a lot from people, especially in their 40s and 50s. A lot of people have gone through relationships and they're on their own, and everybody wants to find that other person, that true love again. But you can't feel love and get love unless you loved yourself first. So, part of the whole thing, like, now everything in life is a circle. So, if you're sitting there and you're knocking yourself down, and you feel that you're not in a place where you want to be, that start where you have to just come to the point of accepting it, so you can start the reinvention of starting where you need to be, because that's where it all starts from. Stop at a moment and just stand still and look at yourself and say, where am I in my life? Where am I in my relationship with me? Can I trust myself? Can I understand myself? Do I listen to myself? It's not about the other person, because if you don't listen to what's going on in your own head, in your own body, how are you going to listen to what other people are saying? So it really does come and start with you. And that works in all the relationships. So, if you're looking for another relationship, even in your life, you got to stop and start with you first. Because if
Yeah.
you're not going to love yourself, you're not going to find love.
True. And we've been conditioned from the time we were very little. You know, we've been put in these schools that want you for 8 hours a day, and then high school. And we've really been just conditioned to live outside of ourselves. And, you know, if you look around, all they're really looking to do is to find workers for the corporations, or, you know, the work, whatever. It's all about work and conditioning for that. So we're taught to go outside of ourselves and answer to someone, or your boss, or, you know, your supervisor. And that really, I know we have to do that. I've had to do that too. But if you come back inside, that's when you find your answers. And when you talk about, you know, truly looking for the love of your life, I always say, you know, don't search for a soulmate, search for the love of your life. Because one thing you have to remember, and I'll just finish this real quick, is that as a woman, you're looking for a man to complete you. But because we both have, men have feminine and masculine aspects, women have feminine and masculine aspects. And what you have to do before you can really find your true love of your life or your soulmate is you have to merge those two together within yourself. So you don't think you're completing one another. You're both complete within yourselves when you find each other.
Very well said.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tyson, can you hear us now?
Hey, I hope you ladies can hear me now. I can hear you.
Oh, yay.
We're good. We're good. Thank you very much. You know what? Trials and tribulations. That's what life is all about. We were just saying, you just roll with the punches. Where it goes.
Yeah,
and look, he came back with a huge smile on his face. I think he went out and had like a bite to eat. I could be wrong. I'll just snap while they're talking.
I'll never tell. I'll keep it a secret.
Our secret.
He doesn't kiss and tell.
I was just listening to what you were sharing at the end, and I applaud that. You know, and if I may just share something.
Please, no, let's get in. This is it. Let's get real.
Yeah, let's get real with it. And
let's get real.
Know, I spent a long time struggling with self and struggling with self-identity. And you talked earlier about men, and maybe when I was listening to you in the introduction, the image of that 5-year-old boy, me, came through, and standing at the end of the driveway. You know, I think it was the first day of school. I remember the shirt. It was a blue shirt with white stripes to the collar and brown shoes. And I think I had a Donald Duck or something lunchbox. And, you know, I was standing there shivering in fear of the you know, and with nowhere to take that fear, nowhere to take that confusion, right? I mean, at 5 years old, I had already learned that men, you know, boys don't cry, and be a man.
That's sad, yeah.
You know, and so I just became good at that, and my whole life became, you know, that dressed up garbage can, I like to call myself. You know, not the Rubbermaid garbage can, but the shiny stainless steel one. I don't know if you ladies remember that.
Oh yeah, hello.
Yeah.
You know, who had the nicest garbage
We're all
can?
in the same era. Yeah.
I'm old. But you know, that's so true. We don't stop to think about how someone like at 5 years old, they have no idea what they're getting. Why am I standing here? Where am I going? What's going to happen? How do I handle it? Where's my mom or my dad who has handled everything before me? Yes. And that's the reason so many people have so many issues inside of them, is that moment, that 5-year-old moment that you're explaining right now is stuck in your body. Is stuck in your body. Yeah. And we have so many old stories that we tell ourselves about fear. So, you know, for you to remember that was very pivotal.
And it was, and it's, I think it's what's really important on the other side of that was, and you ladies talk about this a lot too, is, you know, going back, you know, to a certain point and kind of figuring out where some of those things began and how they started to affect you and how you started to act from those, right? And then my life over the last almost 30 years is about, okay, here's where that little boy was, but here's why, and here's how you can get better at that, you know. And I think I don't want to steal your fire. I don't know if you want me to share. I was speaking to Glenda earlier about something that you ladies may want to talk about later. The 3 R's, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, there's no thunder. There's no thing. We're open. You know, that's the whole idea of this whole show is wherever it goes, That's what I love about it. We talk real about what's going on in all of our lives and share our strengths as well as our weaknesses, because if we can't be a bit vulnerable about what we've been through, how else? Like I share it always with my kids, because when they can see my weakest points and you see where you are today, then you know that you can get through this. And the whole idea is, when people are watching and they are going through what we've been through, then they have hope in themselves as, yes, I can get through this. And that's what we're here for, is to give you that little bit of a fire, fire in your ass to help you get yourself moving, whatever it takes.
That's right.
Absolutely. And
That's right.
some of my best lessons have been learned from taking a wrong turn.
Oh,
oh, I love that. Yeah.
A lot. I think about it, I thought, man, if I had not gotten lost, I would have never found what I found. So you having to go out and come back in at that pivotal moment of what we're talking about, leads us to something that might help someone who's listening. There are no mistakes. When you surrender, the universe has your back for whatever you need.
That's so true. And surrender is a word that when I began my journey, I had to go back and get a dictionary and really look up words like surrender and acceptance and forgiveness, because surrender was a sign of weakness. And you ladies talk about that, and it was a sign of, I'll never surrender, not to my last breath. And when I finally surrendered all of that craziness around my life and said, okay, I need help. It's okay to be sensitive as a man. It's okay to be confused as a child. No, what you were told wasn't necessarily true. And so much freedom came from that.
And when you hold all of that in, it actually makes your heart hard. So you don't enjoy life when you become a hard heart. It changes your living, period.
Well, I like to say numb. I was, a hard heart, a numb individual, had no feeling. And I used to think that was okay to be that level. I think my word was, nothing ever upsets me. I'm just so cool and steady no matter what happens. And that's so far from the truth.
And it makes you tired, doesn't it?
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting to play that game. I've done it too, because I worked in a man's world from about the time that I was 24, real estate, lending, and, construction. And I had to play that role. And man, I was tired and not always the nicest person. So,
in that industry, and people say, well, Geoff, why do you gravitate towards giving all you can and to the female population? And I tell them, as a man of color, there's some similarities that we've gone through. And you mentioned one, Nicole, about in that industry of construction and lending, that's a good old boys network.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate America is kind of used to be a good old boys network. And so,
I worked at Shell Canada in real estate for 13, 14 years. So it was all men that I worked with.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with dealers and gas stations and all the rest of it. It was huge. And the same thing, like my boss was just a horrific person.
Yeah. And they always look at you side-eyed, like, and you're talented and capable. You always had to do more. So there's this, I believe, just a common connection in our journey to the highest levels. So
yeah.
So let's begin with telling us a little bit more about your journey. So you started in the corporate world and corporate America, and you were there for, you said, 40 years?
Well, actually, if I could just step back a little further, I was at one point, and this is something I want people to hear. Okay. I was that kid that all through school, once I became recognized as an athlete, that was my mission and that was my goal. Right. So I ended up getting out of high school with a 1.99 grade point average. And all I wanted to do, I had a scholarship to a Division I football team. So I was going pro, right? I mean, that was just the way my life was going to be. Call me dumb if you wanted to. That was where I was going. And so I learned from those experiences some key things that helped me out later on, because as soon as I got to college and got in, I got injured before I ever was able to show my skills.
Oh, no.
Wow.
So here I am now, sitting at the edge of the college dorm room bed after the final decision was that the injury I had, they couldn't fix. So I was really done playing football. And, you know, I was back in that day, I was full of libations and everything else because I wanted to be numb, right? And I bring this story up because that 1.99 was who I thought I was academically, right? No matter how well I did athletic wise, no matter how well I did everything else, that story was reminding me.
What a shame.
You know, but it worked out such that, you know, my journey is, it's a lot like you said earlier. I'm the comeback king, right? I mean, I'm gonna get punched in the face and all that stuff, and I'm gonna get back up even if I'm staggering. You know, I was gonna stay on trying to get back to this call no matter what until midnight if I didn't get there. You know, I had a commitment to you ladies. Anyway, I just I made a decision, and this is important. At that point, I'm going to graduate from college on time, and I'm going to get a business degree, and I'm going to be the CEO of somebody's corporation. And this is the same guy that had 8th grade reading capability and never took any business classes, had a 1.9
Wow.
average. But the moral of the story was, and I tell people this, if you can make a decision and then take action behind that decision, you know, and I had a why, right? I had a why again. I was like, I'm not going back home to be another one of those athletes that came out of my area, because there was a ton of athletes in Northeastern Ohio, great football, high school stuff, right? I wasn't going to be another one of those guys that didn't make it.
Yeah.
You know, and my parents, man, I had 2 loving parents, and plus there's 5 of us all together, and everybody else in my family was super smart academic wise, had great grades, and I wasn't going to let them also win. They never teased me, right? It was just that motivation. And I did it. I graduated in 4 years. I was on the dean's list when I graduated, and I never became CEO in corporate America, but eventually I became CEO of my own business.
I love
Even
it.
more important.
More important, yeah.
Even more important.
Most important, Nicole, because I was really wanting to do that the moment I left college, but I was afraid to.
Isn't that amazing what fear embeds in us and stops us from becoming the best version of ourselves? That little voice that just picks at you at times, thinking, you know, and we're all so very capable, so very smart. And, you know, so congratulations. That's a great story.
Thank
The
you.
other thing that really bothers me is how our students are graded, because I wasn't a great student. I wasn't focused. At one point, my life changed, and I went down. And you know what? It wasn't until I finished school where I all of a sudden started blossoming and booming. Like I was the street girl that, you know, like learning on the streets. But if I would, and then when I went back to school, I rocked it. So it's, you know, when you tell a child, when you're marking them off because maybe they're not there, or maybe the teacher isn't connecting with the child. And I know that happened with one of my kids. You know, if the teacher isn't connecting, that kid's grades can go plummeting down. So, you know, if you were to just say, you know, to put a child of just saying that they're just there, they're showing up, they're active, if that's how you know, to me, that's how they should be graded, not on tests. Like, I think that there has to be a differentiation between how kids really need to be able to show up.
That's really important. Yeah, I agree. My daughter's a school teacher, so I hear it all the time about how they have these grade systems set up, you know, for kids, and it's just the teachers don't even understand how to take the test.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And I think it's getting worse.
Yes.
I think it's getting worse instead of getting better.
Yes.
You know, I had one daughter's an amazing student. She defines herself by that. The other one is not. She defined herself by her volunteer work and how she interacted. You know, if you would have graded her on working with kids with disabilities, she'd have been an A+ student. But guess what? She was a C- because she didn't like math. You know, so that's not fair.
No, it really isn't. And what happens, and then those kids just oftentimes get caught up in the system. if they don't have some type of resource, some kind of support system, which unfortunately there are a lot of kids that don't, then it just perpetuates, keeps the jails in business, keeps the police busy, just
Yeah.
life of crime and everything else that goes on. So there's got to be a better way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So once you got into your own business, you all of a sudden sparked and found your passion?
Well, that's interesting. I finally took off the tie, and I always thought that was a cool thing, just to get sharp and walk around with the tie, right? I mean, I did that thing, and I was married at the time. I've been married twice, divorced once, and my ex-father-in-law he was a school teacher, but he had this really cool business. He was in this insulation business where it was green fiber materials and spray, and it was different. And he was making a lot of money, right? I mean, that business was generating way more than his teaching. And I'm thinking, okay, what do you have to do? You have to be able to work physically, and you have to talk to people. I said, I can do those two things. And then, okay, what else am I missing? I need somebody to help me show how to do it, right? Because you always have to have guidance. And I know you ladies are supporters of mentors and getting educated, right? So I did those things. And I left corporate America, and I, it was like 3 years into it, and I was 7 figures, and we were getting ready to go into, another growth pattern, and then the housing market came in.
It's still painful to remember that.
There's some pain to it, Nicole, but there's so much joy from it too.
Yeah.
I mean, overcoming that and getting there, and I not only had that going on, but that's when I was going through my divorce at that time. So here I am, this guy that had reached, that plateau CEO, built this business, and I went from 7 figures overnight to $2.50 in my pocket.
Ooh,
It was brutal.
I can understand that one, and I've been there. I just understand it very well.
Oh yeah, I laughed today.
Wow, I'm glad you're here smiling today, because we knew people that killed themselves. I mean, it was that bad.
It was crazy.
It was bad. So I'm glad to see your beautiful smile here today. Kind of, we can laugh at it a little bit, but man,
laugh out loud.
It was ugly.
So, and there's other things, but I will tell you that one of the greatest gifts I got from that, in addition to starting another business in real estate and education, and that's what I've been doing over the last 10 years, and had some great success in that, and had some bumps in the road there too.
Of course.
Is as I learned more about myself at a deeper level in relationships, and I took some time after that divorce, and got together with Geoff again, and got connected with Geoff again, and surrendered some habits, and the universe gave me another shot. And I have a beautiful wife now. We've been married. I know the anniversary is September 4th, but I think it's either 11 or 12 years. Don't tell us. But she's
safe with us. It's okay.
I hope so, because she's listening. She'll find out.
Oh well, she's listening. That's another story. We won't hide anything here.
He's working.
Well, you know what? If it's 12 years and it only seems like 11, that means it's wonderful. If it were 12 years and it seemed like 20, then you're in trouble.
No, it seemed like we just started yesterday. So.
Oh, you better be careful, because Steve's telling on you. It ain't coming from us. Look where it's coming from your own backyard.
I love that, but the gifts are just endless. With that marriage, I've got 3 grandbabies.
Oh, nice.
I had before, and hanging out with my 12-year-old granddaughter and listening to what goes on in the mind of a 12-year-old. Oh my goodness, holy smokes!
Really?
They're growing up so fast and so quick, and they're just so smart.
Yeah.
In some things.
Yes.
The unfortunate part of young children growing up today, and we talked about this a little earlier, is the fact of I think that the phones are, they're not learning communication.
Yes.
So they're not communicating with one another. They're just so focused in that one thing, and I think that's the big deterrent in life right now.
And you know, Glenda, I want to say something about that. You know, and one of my mentors talks about why are we focusing on trying to teach our children about social studies and all these other subject matters that are insignificant to the fact that if they don't know how to communicate,
Yeah.
and if they can't speak to anybody at any level, then you know that's the biggest thing. How do we teach them? Yeah, how do we teach them to communicate? You know,
Well, you know, and the other saddest thing is, you know, like even to communicate, the fact is they're texting. You know, if you see a bunch of kids sitting around, let's say in a mall or something, none of them are sitting around and talking. They're all plugged into their phone and they're texting. They're even texting each other across the table. Hello.
Mine used to text me from upstairs to ask me to bring them things. I'm like, no, that will never happen. Ever.
Don't do it.
But you know, our age, don't you remember the joy of just sitting around with your friends and laughing and joking and talking, and everybody was involved in the communication. And I think back on those days, it was so fun. We learned so much just from talking to one another.
That's right. That's right.
And I don't see kids doing that anymore.
But it has to start in the home. You know, if I had rules in my house, dinner, there was not a phone allowed at the dinner table. And I don't care, you know, that's the way it is. My kids come for dinner, the phone is not at the table.
That's right.
That's just common courtesy. You know, if you've got to have your phone on, then you place it aside off the table, but it can be on if it's because of business that you need to have it on. But, you know, you got to start like a parent has to parent.
Yes.
And, you know, I have a great relationship with my kids, both of them. And I have many kids because, you know, through the years they seem to become mine, whatever. I love it. But it's the same thing that, you know, there's rules in life. That's why we have laws.
Yes.
And you know, when you fall off the rules or you break the laws, then you're punished accordingly. And so, you know, as a parent needs to say, you know, like, it's great to be a friend. You know, I'm friends too, but even at this point, my kids are adults now. I still demand respect. And I don't need to demand it anymore. It's natural in our household.
Yes.
So a parent needs to know that, you know, your kid doesn't need to like you. Your kid will love you because later on they'll know, but your kid grows much better when they're actually parented.
Yeah. But can I share something about that really just drives me crazy? And I hope your audience out there maybe able to identify with this. Because I too, I think we're all around the same age here on this conversation. We probably went through the similar discipline patterns growing up, you know, with accountability and responsibility, a thing called chores and stuff like that.
My kids will say, what?
What? So, you know, but it created, you know, an expectation that there's consequences, both good and bad, and you're responsible for your actions. And I guess I see parents today that just the child is 2 or 3 years old and we're at the dinner table and they're asking the child, what does the child want to eat for dinner? And they can barely talk. And then whatever the child says that's the choice that the parent chooses for dinner. Or whatever the child says about doing whatever the parent asks, when the parent should be parenting at that time. You know, hey, listen, that's great that they're independent. That's great that you want them to engage in conversation, but give them some framework around a foundation, you know, that hey, I want you to be independent, but you're also going to have to learn how to listen to me when I'm telling you something.
Exactly.
You know, and I don't care what you're saying at that point. This is a parenting experience that you're going to listen to. You know? And I watch that, and these kids just run the parents crazy.
Yeah.
It's true. And you know, in the real world is not going to cater to you like that.
No.
So it's best that they do learn through their parents with love versus, you know, being shoved into the world and they're like, no, that's not how it works. And then they're shocked. That all of a sudden they're just a person and not some special person that gets to bark orders.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me something, Geoff. When you got knocked down, how did you get back up? How? Because you're known as the comeback king, and you're the king. I get it, but you had to find your own little ways of getting back up. What did you do?
I have to give credit to my parents first, right? Because I learned my behaviors through what I saw them do and how they live. I mean, you talk about two people that they wanted a family and they were committed to each other, and they didn't care about all the craziness. They did, but it didn't affect how they brought us up. I grew up in the 60s, and it was crazy times and riots and racial problems and all that. But they treated people the way they wanted to be treated. It didn't matter what color the person was. And so I learned that, man, even with all that hatred and all that other stuff, they kept showing up every day with a smile on their face. They would get up every morning. My father used to tell me all the time, he said, son, look, I'm putting these pants on just like this, and you're going to go in your room and put them on just like this, the same way. So anybody that you ever meet, remember, they put their pants on the same way you do.
I love it.
And so I remember that. He said, no matter what if they're your boss, whoever they are, remember that. Your value is equal to them. Always remember that.
Beautiful.
So I saw them go through things, man. My mom was the first African-American to graduate from her nursing school in Pennsylvania. So I saw possibilities. My pops had his own business, and he was a man's man, and he taught me how to, even though I didn't know how to do it for a long time, how to respect a woman, to honor a woman, to encourage a woman to be that partner, to do whatever is necessary, fellas, if you're out there listening. It's not her job or my job. It's whatever needs to be done at that time. You do it. Dishes, cleaning, whatever it is. And I'm from that space. Yeah. And so I learned that if I don't give up, right? If I don't get up after being knocked down, I'm never going to go anywhere. But if I get up, I got a chance. And you said it earlier in our conversation we talked about earlier. Take one step, one little step. Move one step forward, baby step. When I decided to go, I was going to be a student at college. I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. Right? First step I did was I found somebody that says, hey, I need to learn how to study. Can you teach me? Here's my reading issues. Can you teach me? Little things like that. And, I always had a why. I always had one reason.
Huge. Yeah.
No matter what. And it was clear and it was written down on something like this. This is paper and pen for those of you that don't know anymore.
We laugh, but you never know anymore.
They may not. So, I rely on what I learned from observation to answer your question. I decided that I know I got to get up and try it again. I know I'm going to fail, but I always like to say I'm comfortable sucking at whatever I'm doing when I'm learning, because I know eventually I'm going to figure it out.
Well, that's a great mindset to have.
That's perfect.
Because most people don't have that. That's what ends up happening, why people stay down.
And I got that through athletics. I have to give credit there first, but then, I learned the power of having mentorships and guidance, and this whole thing called self-development, that we don't teach in school. You don't learn how to, set your own goals, add value to yourself. You don't learn how to love yourself and be humble and all those other things. So it's so many things that we can help people with.
It's just like the one great thing about sports, not the one, there's many things, but, sports, everybody knows that you have a coach.
Yeah.
An athlete is not going to get anywhere, no matter whether it's in the school or whether it's on the Olympics or anywhere, unless you have a coach.
That's right.
But why is it anything else? Like, that's why people go that they're going to go through life and they don't have a coach because they don't think it's necessary. Well, we've learned from forever that in athletics, you always have a coach.
Yes.
That's how you make it up there. Well, what makes it different about it in life?
And that's the gap, though. I mean, that's that gap between understanding the value of ourselves, putting value on ourselves, that we are worthy of the investment necessary
Absolutely.
We are
Absolutely.
worthy of investing in ourselves because we do it. We'll spend the same amount of money going to the movies or going to dinner or buying some tennis shoes or buying a house than we will spend the money on the most important thing. And then it's this and this.
Well, how about, sorry, I don't know what keeps going on. My phone has been muted and all of a sudden it's ringing. So I don't get it.
Everybody wants Glenda. You know
That's
that.
right. You're in demand, my friend. So
She is. She is.
own it.
Everybody
Yeah.
wants Glenda.
Both of you ladies are. So just step into it and own it. Come on now.
Well, you want a piece? Come on. But you know what? It's the thing is people have to know. People have to know that the most important thing is that you have to start investing in yourself, and if you don't invest in yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. And whether that's learning new skills, whether that's anything in our life. So why is that such a hard thing? Like, at what point did you finally get, well, you grew up with athletics, but at what point did you finally get to where you started thinking about even coaching through afterwards?
Well, it's funny you asked that. It was kind of at the same time. I was introduced to network marketing, and it was the old the Amway Corporation. And the thing that they focused on that I took away from the most was they were all about self-development. They said, okay, training as an athlete is one thing, but what do you do every day to sharpen your mind? What do you do every day to connect your mind and your body and your spirit together? What are you reading every day? What are you listening to every day? What are you aspiring to every day? And it really kind of, it's like, man, I have to tell you, I was kind of like, I probably suck at this right now because, outside of training for sports and lifting weights and running and all that other stuff, this was a whole nother lane for me. And that journey began, it's almost 27 years now of just practicing those things and teaching other people that, and that was probably the biggest blessing that I got from almost losing my first business I built. Was I didn't really design it around how I could help other people. It was about how I can make a living, how I can make money for myself and then my family. There wasn't the passion that I have now in being able to host a YouTube channel, Conversations with Geoff, and having guests on there, sneak peeks on one of the couple. I'm just going to be quiet there, but being able to empower people with experiences, and you ladies do it so eloquently. Sharing your experience, sharing your struggles, sharing your outcomes, with all of it, not just pieces of it.
Jar, I'm going to say something that I grew up watching, especially when I got married, more so than in my own home, of my mother-in-law. Everything had to be a secret.
Mm.
And you weren't allowed to tell people if there were problems and so many things. Like, she got really upset because I don't know, I just spoke it out because that's the way I am, and we would have fights over it, like, because of I said something. And and I that's when I started realizing that a lot of people keep lives and things a secret because you should be ashamed of what's gone on in your life. And well, you know what, I'm not ashamed. I fell and I fell hard and I fell a few times, and but I got up every time. And that's why, for me, empowering others to come through, they need to understand that I'm not perfect.
Right.
And and that's how we learn, is when we fall. And maybe I can help you. Maybe you won't fall as hard as I fell, because I can help you through that.
That's right. No, so important.
Yeah.
So important. Man.
And Geoff, I want to ask you a question, because it dawned on me when you were talking about how you were just concerned about taking care of yourself and your family, and how it really changed for you when you started incorporating others into that. When you think back to that feeling of just you, and you think of yourself today incorporating others and helping others. What does that feeling feel like inside of you?
Man, you know, I reflect back on when it kind of went off for me, and I have that same feeling today, because my mentors and my network marketing team, they were very successful, and they had everything that anybody would want. But you know what? They served me like I was the most important person on the planet, genuinely, right? I know when people are full of crap.
Right.
But I learned a valuable lesson then, Nicole, about, man, it's not about me. It's about who's in front of me. And that's my love language anyway, is service. You know, I'm that guy, but I ignored that love language for a long time. Right. And so I found that out. And so that feeling, I was like, I met them for the first time when you asked that question. I had that same feeling in my heart when you said that, you know, about the joy. It just kind of like lightens me up.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a great question.
The smile tells it all. You know, you probably don't even know that you're smiling. I know you know you're smiling, but it's so genuine. And there's such a difference when someone speaks their truth like that, and you shine. You absolutely shine.
You see it in the face, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, you see, like, you glow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, you glow and you sparkle, and that's, you know, I think that's what attracted me to you originally when I have seen you speak, because you speak from the heart. Yeah. You know that you're not sitting there and talking bullshit. You're saying it, and that's exactly it. You can see when people are just putting it out there.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies. That means a lot coming from the both of you, because I have the same feelings for you, and that's how it connects, right?
Yeah, right. And that's why we tend to attract one another. And that's the thing about people, like, you know, when you're showing your true self, you know, people are afraid to show themselves. They're worried about, because people are going to talk about, you know, or maybe call them out and that. So what if they call you out? If you're really and you're really real, then you have nothing to worry about.
Sleep like a baby at night.
Yes. I don't know if I always sleep like a baby. That's another story.
Well, we sleep better at night.
Causes another world.
Yeah. But you know, you're the ripple. We're all the ripple for others. And that's where I'm very happy to be at this moment in my life. You know, I've had people that have mentored me, or I look at it's like, you know, that must feel really, really good. And you get to a point where, you know, your heart extends this 6 feet out, and all of a sudden you just expand, your consciousness expands, and people are drawn to you because you are truly who you are finally meant to be.
Yeah.
Wow. And it feels good, doesn't it?
It does. I mean,
it does.
It's worth all the pain and misery along the way, you know, because all those things are just lessons that we either build from or they stop us. And I choose not to be stopped.
Oh, I'm so glad.
It's also so beautiful, the fact that you've got grandkids now. So you can, you know, there's nothing, I'm not at that point yet in my life, but I dream of that hopefully one day. But that beauty of, look how much that you can pass on now.
Yeah. You know, and that's interesting you say that. And I was just quick story about my grandson. There's 3 of them. There's two granddaughters and a grandson, 2, 4, and 12.
Wow.
And 4-year-old to be 5, and the 2-year-old to be 3 or something like that, and the 12. Anyway, you know, I was looking at my grandson one day. I was standing outside visiting with him, and he looked at me, and this big, beautiful smile, and big, bright eyes, just joy in his heart, you know. And I looked at him, and his whole life flashed in front of me, you know. And I was like, man, let's face it. Right now, young African-American boys are destined, 60% don't graduate from high school or more. And the trajectory is going, you know, they come out of high school, drop out of high school, get into the streets and into either the cemetery or the prison system. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, I had to do something. You know, I mean, I don't know what, And I'm bringing that up with you ladies because you're all about, services and thinking about that. And we have to do not just brown babies, but babies that struggle, all babies, and because it's just crazy where that, if you look out forecast, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, and I already said it, and I'm going to give you a little bit more of a backup. I say read. Teach your child to read.
Yes.
I really pushed reading in my household. My kids never bought a book. They did get some form of allowance for some chores, but the book, we went every single week to the bookstore, and I bought the book. Their money was not to be put out on books. It was my treat to buy the book. And every single night we went to bed reading.
Yeah.
My son was such an avid reader that when he went through law school, he ended up graduating one of the top of his class.
Wow.
And he said it was easy. Why? Because he reads.
Yes.
My daughter, and here's a trick for parents who have kids that struggle. My daughter, who was not as strong of a reader, what I did to keep her reading is I would buy books that were lower than her level. So she got the fact of feeling the accomplishment of reading a book.
Yeah.
For a while, when she started seeing that she read a series and she got it, then I would slowly start to raise her up. But knowing that you finish something is more important than always just the struggle. Yeah. Today, she is also a very avid reader. And I believe that when you can't read, you struggle in school. And the one thing that you can give, like I say, teach your child to read. Every night we sat together, and that was our bonding time. Yeah. We read. Yeah. So, as if you're a new parent and you're watching this, I can't stress enough about that because it will change your child's entire life. And I see firsthand about when you're talking about the prison systems, because my son is a criminal defense lawyer. So he's in the jails now with all of it, watching it, working for these people, trying to help them. And the stories are that the education on some of these people in the jail system is really failing because they're really not helping people. Right. And, that's the sad part about it. But, one of the biggest things that he says is people can't read. Yeah. Yeah. And it's terrible. I mean, and if you can't read, you can't count oftentimes, and the whole self-image is there. And I hear you about my grandkids read like crazy. The mom and dad read to them every night. They got books around. We're buying books, and so it's so important to just, that information.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And computers make it harder because we're not reading, we're watching. Yeah. So, yeah.
And I love the feel of a book. There's something really comforting about, falling asleep and you put your book beside you. Call me crazy, but I couldn't agree more, Glenda. I was an avid reader myself, but when I see something, because I read so much, I know when something's misspelled. I know the pronunciation of something because I looked it up because I didn't know what that little line squiggle above it was. Yeah. And so it's not just about reading and having it take you to a different place. It's literally education on pages.
Yeah, so powerful, and it just broadens your mind. I mean, you're receptive to more information. You're aware of more things, and let's face it, without the exposure, kids are, you take someone and you expose them to all these different things in life, and take that same child and don't do anything with them. Who do you think is going to be more successful?
Exactly.
So
perfect example. Perfect example.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you know what? We are coming to the end of our session, and because we got delayed and all the rest, and Geoff, we haven't even touched you at all yet. There's these two women that are just waiting to dive into you and find out more, open that almost.
Glenda, he's the comeback king. We're going to have him come back. He's definitely got to come back.
Yes, Mr. Comeback King, we want you back. So before we go, can you give us some wise wisdom words of something you can leave our audience with?
Yeah, I'd like to even just something really simple that they can do right now, for that person that is like, man, I don't know what to do. I've tried all these other things. 4 simple things, and they can write it down is, first of all, find somebody that can help you if you can, right? And do one thing. If you can't find someone to help you, then get yourself a pen and paper and do an honest inventory on where you are right now. And this just be simple in your financial, in your relationship, and your community service. Where are you in those areas? And then what is it that you want to accomplish? Really what you want to accomplish, why you want to accomplish it, and how you want to do it. And if you don't know what the how is, put a big question mark on it and reach out to these ladies in this conversation. And they'll be able to help you find that out for 4 simple things, and cut yourself some slack. You're not going to be different overnight. You're not going to be great overnight. You're going to suck at whatever it is you do for a long time. But learn to love that part, because the quicker you can learn to do that, the faster you're going to get to the other side.
And also, how can we get in touch with you if somebody is resonating with you and wants to speak to you directly?
Oh, great. Simple. It's Geoff, Geoff C. Tyson, Geoff with the G, C. Tyson @gmail.com. Geoff C. Tyson @gmail.com.
We'll put that down also in the body of that of this video for anybody who wants to get in touch with Geoff as well.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yes, you are coming back, Mr. Comeback.
Our comeback guy.
I love it, ladies. Thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Nicole, any last little wisdom words for us?
Well, if anybody listened to a lot of this conversation, and you don't even have to listen closely to hear that all 3 of us are really resonating and speaking our truth through our heart center, which is your truth center. And I think, I don't like to say old because I don't feel old, but I've been through so many things, and I'm like cheese. I aged well. I get fine wine, but we've been there and we've done a lot of things, and it all started with one step. It all started with one word, and we had to build up to who we've become now. And I really feel that if you start with you in mind to better yourself and to help better others, you're going to find this journey so much easier on yourself and so much more fulfilling. So each and every one of us added to this, Geoff, the way you speak, I could just listen to you all day. You have such a calming, eloquent voice. And we have to go inside. Because of our fingerprint, we're completely unique. Yes. We're here for a reason. We're all important, and we are all loved.
I agree.
Thank you. Thank you both so very much. It was a beautiful session today. And for anybody who's listening, you know what? What's my message today? Don't be so hard on yourself. Everything is just one step forward. That's all. Yeah. If you could do one baby step, you've done a lot. In the meantime, make sure you go out and have a good day and put a smile on your face. It makes you feel better.
That's right.
Take care for now. Bye.